With the advent of the internet, social media, and 24-hour news reporting, we're just exposed to an onslaught of gossip, accusations, and horrible things said about everybody, right? And you've probably been a victim of unjust remarks, false statements, and it doesn't feel good, does it? And yet, it's a staple of our culture. It's almost a disappointment if you were to, it would be a disappointment, I guess, if you were to scroll down through something in a day's, just in a 24-hour period and not find something that someone has said about somebody else. But yet, none of us like it when it's aimed toward us. And today I want to talk about how to deal with that. I want to give you some kind of a strategy. And I hope it compels you to consider the words that come out of your own mouth and how we talk about other people versus how they talk about us. But I would say most of us probably think we don't do that, do we? Right? I mean, we just don't think that we participate in it to any degree whatsoever. But we might be more involved than we think we are. And I hope this challenges you. I'm going to give you a word of the day, and that word is calumny. Calumny is a word that you don't really hear people say that often. It's more often in print than it is spoken out loud. You'll see it in books a lot. You might hear it. You might hear it in a courtroom. You hear it in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Captain Jack Sparrow will say slander and calumny. I think he's probably done it in every movie. And most people either haven't caught it or didn't know what it means. They didn't know what it meant, and so they just kind of brushed it aside. But the word calumny is very important. It actually means the making of false and defamatory statements about someone in order to damage their reputations. Now, there's not a lot of a difference between the words slander and calumny, as Jack Sparrow says it. It's a little redundant. However, if you Google it, here's what it says. It does say there's somewhat of a difference. See if you can tell what it is. It says that slander is a false, malicious statement spoken or published, especially one which is injurious to a person's reputation, while calumny is a falsification or misrepresentation intended to disparage or discredit another. It just sounds to me here like one's talking about destroying the person, their integrity, their character, and the other one's just trying to get to their feelings. I don't see that personally. I see them as almost one and the same. I think they're trying to draw some kind of a differentiation between effect here, and I don't think it works very well in their explanation. So slander and calumny, it's cool to hear Captain Jack Sparrow say it. I just don't think there's a lot of difference in it. But ask yourself, are you a participant are you a fellow calumniator? Are you helping people that actually speak evil of others? Are you the person doing it? Are you the person who is casting your aspersion in someone else's absence? Are you someone who knows what it feels like to have that done to you? And what do you do about it? Chances are you probably have a pretty sharp reaction to it. I know plenty of people who will say, I'm not going to let them talk that way about me. I even read about it in history. It doesn't matter whether you're the everyday working man, blue collar guy, or you're working in the upper echelons of the White House. It doesn't make any difference. It makes you feel the same way, and people will react inherently in common with each other. Okay? They'll try to give an equal reaction, but there's a better way to deal with all this. Let's talk about the effect of calumny. Okay, here's what Herodotus had to say. He said, the calumniator inflicts wrong by slandering the absent. And he who gives credit to the calumny before he knows it is true, is equally guilty. The person traduced is doubly injured by him who propagates and by him who credits the slander. Someone else went on to say, those who ought to be most secure against calumny are generally those who least escape it. Do not think that because you feel insulated, either by the way you lead your life or by the quality of friends you have around you, that you are immune to calumny or even slander, for that matter. because eventually it's going to happen to you if it hasn't happened already. Okay? So no one gets a free pass. Now, let's talk about how you can deal with someone saying things about you that could potentially really hurt your feelings or hurt your way of living. Here's what Hugh Blair said. He said, "To seem disturbed at calumny is the way to make it believed, and stabbing your defamer will not prove you innocent. Live an exemplary life, and then your good character will overcome and refute the calumny." Have you thought about that? The bigger of a deal you make out of it, the bigger of a deal it will be. Let it die on the vine, and it often will. Oftentimes our ego doesn't want us to allow that to happen. We tend to want to just come right back at it, don't we? All right. Someone else once said, "Calumny is like the wasp that worries you, which it is not best to try to get rid of unless you are sure of slaying it. For otherwise it returns to the charge more furious than ever." What a great picture. Calumny is like the wasp. Unless you're very confident that you can slay it, don't even try. Now, what I like about this quote is it's not saying that you should always brush it off or walk away or completely ignore it. There may be times you can confront it, but you have to have complete confidence that you know that you can nip it in the bud. If you don't have that, it's best to walk away. All right. All right. "The upright man, if he suffers calumny to move him, fears the tongue of man more than the eye of God." Well, this gets down to the root of the problem of responding insufficiently to calumny or just inappropriately. Okay? A lot of times we will say and do things, we'll rebuke the calumniator because we actually fear what other people will think of us. So next time you feel the barbs of derision and you want to sharply respond, ask yourself, are you doing it because you fear what other people will say about you? It should be an indicator, or at least it might be. Give that some thought. All right, moving on. "Never chase a lie. If you let it alone, it will soon run itself to death. You can work out a good character faster than calumny can destroy it." Okay. William Penn said, "Believe nothing against another but on good authority, and never report what may hurt another, unless it be a greater hurt to some other to conceal it." Ask yourself when someone approaches you and says, "Have you heard? Did you know? Let me tell you about this other person." Ask yourself, how much can I trust this other person's word? Are they a good source, or would they say this same kind of thing about me? How much do they look into this before they repeated the matter? In fact, I'm going to throw in a quote here that I didn't really intend to. I can't pronounce the man's name, but I'll put it on the screen. He said, "The opposite of what is said about people and things is often the truth." That's probably something you've considered, isn't it? I mean, you've probably given that some thought, but don't forget about it. All right, let me get back to my train of thought here. Francis Quarles. He said, "Close thine ear against him that opens his mouth against another. If thou receive not his words, they fly back and wound him. If thou receive them, they flee forward and wound thee." I know, it's a lot of these in there. Sounds like Old English, but listen to what he said. All right, now moving on. Someone else said, "I never listen to calumnies because if they are untrue, I run the risk of being deceived. And if they are true, of hating persons not worth thinking about." This is something to really ponder, because next time someone gossips and they want to share, horrible information about someone else, ask yourself, do I really even care about this person enough to listen to this? Because none of this might be true, and I'll think worse of them than I ought to, or maybe I do like them and I'll not think the same of them after I hear this. But in many cases, we'll oftentimes become gleeful and celebrate and clap hands with the person that we've come into this newfound information, this scandalous content. When in reality, we don't really care about some of these people anyway, but it kind of feeds this vile part of our nature. All right? All right. Tacitus. This is what Tacitus said. He goes, neglected calumny soon expires. Show that you are hurt, and you give it the appearance of truth. Oh man, I love that. I love that. And you know what? I can tell you from my own personal experience that showing indifference to the comments of another person, what someone else has said about us, is oftentimes most time is the best course of action to take, because it really does seem to peter out when you do that. George Washington said, to persevere in one's duty and be silent is the best answer to calumny. George Washington was a great example of this. He was one who very closely guarded what came out of his mouth. Now, there is an advantage to people speaking out against us. I believe that no matter what life hands you, and if you can't control it, you don't have any say-so in the matter, it's best to find a way to make it work to your benefit. Is there any way that calumny, that these slanders spoken about us could help us at all? Well, let's see. President Rutherford B. Hayes said, opposition and calumny are often the brightest tribute that vice and folly can pay to virtue and wisdom. If you don't ever want to have anything horrible spoken about you, then just don't ever do anything. Be a nobody. Just don't even try. And you might escape it, but you probably won't. But the fact that people will take the time to let your name pass through their lips, whether good or bad, and he's saying here, especially when it's calumny, is oftentimes a good sign. It means you're on the move. It means you're active. You're doing something. You're probably moving forward. And I guarantee you, if you are progressing, you're going to have people talking about you. The last one here, by Ben Jonson. He said, I am beholden to calumny, that she hath so endeavored to belie me. It shall make me set a surer guard on myself and keep a better watch upon my actions. While you don't want to be consumed with living a life that is above board so that you can please everybody else, you should be aware that your sin will find you out. Calumny is not always wrong. It's wrong in the sense that people shouldn't be talking about you behind your back, but it doesn't mean that the information is always wrong. One of the best things you can do is do what's right. Live a just life. Keep your nose clean. Mind your P's and Q's and all those other cliches. At least you know you've done your best and that your reputation is to speak for itself. And if you can keep your mouth shut long enough and your ego at bay, you're probably going to come out ahead. And you'll probably be a lot stronger for it. And another thing I have found out, this is the last thing I'll say about it, is that don't underestimate being the underdog. People love rooting for the underdog. Let things play themselves out. And if you can stay silent long enough, you'll make others question the validity of someone else's word. All right. I hope that's helped. If it's meant anything to you at all whatsoever, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you're thinking. Add to this. Your 2 cents is valuable. I'll try to respond to each and every one of you in a good time frame, whenever it's convenient for me. I'll try to do my best. But make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I'll catch you in the next one. Be wise.